Hello, Psych 100 students. Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday. I hope that you're well. I'm wearing green. I hope that you are too, because if not, you might get pinched by a leprechaun. Here we are. This is not live, so if you say something to me or ask me a question, I may not answer it immediately. It's not that I'm ignoring you or that I have headphones on. It's just this is a recorded message. Please keep in mind that you can email me anytime and I will respond to you as fast as I can if you have any questions about the lecture or content. As our world is evolving, so are we. So here's what I'd like you to do. One, be aware that our exam format is going to change a little bit. Before we had the format of approximately 40 multiple choice questions, about 4 or 5 short answer essay questions, and I already started the review for chapter 5. That's going to change. We're just going to have 10 short answer essays. I'm going to send it to you. You're going to have some time to construct an answer and send it back to me. It's all going to be good. You'll have a chance to think and process. You won't be under the confines of an hour and 15 minutes. For those who need additional time, you'll have additional time. You'll have a deadline to send it back to me. All that will be sorted out once we get the exam constructed. And it's being constructed as I speak. I did write it last night. The lecture is going to be a little bit different too. Instead of an hour and 15 minutes of lecture twice a week, I'm going to break up my lectures in 15-minute increments. There's a few reasons for that. Some of them are technical, but as I'm doing the lecture and you happen to have some questions about the lecture, of course you can email me and ask me about it. Remember, this isn't a live broadcast, as you know. This is a recorded message, so I don't want you to think like, hey, I'm asking him a question. Why isn't he answering me? Is his hearing that bad? Are those earphones really plugging up his ears so bad? No, it's not. I'm not ignoring you either. It's just, it's a recorded message. All right. So I will be giving you the reviews as I normally do after each exam. I will give you chapter 5 reviews right after I'm done with chapter 6 lecture so that I can cover both and you know exactly what the essays are and you can start thinking about them, formulating your answers. I would like your answers when you do submit them to be typed so you can send them to me as a form of an attachment to an email, however you decide to do it. And I will give you again the deadlines when all that is due, when the exams are due. I've rethought the issue of the weekly notes, and so what I want you to do, since I'm kind of springing this on you, is that by Friday, 9 a.m., that would be Friday, let me get the right date, Friday, March 20th, I want you to send the current notes that are due this week, and that would be chapter 6 notes on learning. You can take a picture of it and send it to me, or you can just submit it if it's typed to me as a form of an attachment to my email, just so I can record those points for you as if you were getting a stamp. I probably will confirm that I got it for each one of you, so that way you know that you can write down the points down too. That's the best way I can stamp it, so to speak, is by confirming that I received it. If you don't hear me responding to your email saying that you sent it on time, that means something happened. I didn't get it. So do it early. If you have it today as you're watching this, or when you do watch this, send it immediately. And I hope to post this by tomorrow, assuming I get this right. Okay. So let's begin with chapter 6 lecture. I'm going to ask you, like I normally do, what did you folks think of this here chapter 6 learning? Now, obviously, I'd wait and ask for your response. but even before that, I would have taken attendance already. But I think you can guess how I feel about this chapter. Learning is amazing. Why is it so amazing to me? Well, here's the definition. The definition is so simple. Change in behavior resulting from experience. Learning is central to almost all areas of human existence. And I had to learn how to do these videos. And let me tell you, for an in-person kind of person, this was a challenge, for sure. I'm hoping that the tape I'm doing right now actually will work, and I'll be able to figure out how to transfer it to YouTube. I was shown how to do that yesterday by a colleague, but of course my memory span is a little disjointed. What I want you to do is I want you to think about all the things you had to learn just to get to higher education, just to get to a college setting, an institution of higher learning. Everything from reading, writing, following directions, analyzing data, passing tests, writing papers, and how to navigate technology in this particular case. How are you watching this film? How are you taking notes from the video? Of course, we see learning all over the place represented by our silly art. If we didn't do so well in the easy box, they wouldn't have given us this complicated box. And that's what happens with our learning, not just with the rats. If you recall, in our psychology lab, when we did the rat mazes back in the day, the rats were given an easy maze and then given more complex mazes. And that's what we started off with you, with your educational experience. Kindergarten, your challenge of the day was to finger paint. Today, it's to pass an exam with 10 short answer essays. Big leap. If you know anything about the history of psychology, you'll see the humor in this particular art piece, where we have Dr. Pavlov with his dog trying to get a job and saying that he salivates. And the person hiring him is probably not that impressed, primarily because all dogs salivate. The artist there is assuming that you know who Ivan Pavlov is and what he's known for. All right. Let me show you a couple things of how much things have changed, how drastically things have changed over the years. When you were a kid, you might have been asked the following questions. Number one, name the 4 seasons. Here's an answer. All the answers that I'm going to give you are from actual kid science exam responses. So the question was, name the 4 seasons. Answer, salt, pepper, mustard, and vinegar. That's classic. How is dew formed? The sun shines down on the leaves and makes them perspire. Oh my gosh, well, that's not too far from the truth. This one's a classic. How can you delay milk turning sour? Keep it in the cow. The kid is right. The kid is right. What happens to your body as you age? Response, when you get old, so do your bowels, and you get intercontinental. That's classic. How does that kid even know that big word? Uh-oh, here's a tricky one. What happens to a boy when he reaches puberty? He says goodbye to his boyhood and looks forward to his adultery. Okay, I blame Hulu and Netflix for that one, right? Do you guys remember anatomy class? Anybody ever take that class? Here's a question you might have been asked. What is a fibula? Response, a small eye. Oh my gosh. When we see little kids and they keep on asking why? Well, the reason they ask why so much, as you know, is because they want to know. They're curious. They want to get down to the nitty-gritty. So we have to be patient with them. We have to tell them that we don't know the answer sometimes. Or if we do know the answer, try to explain it to them in terms that they can understand. That's the process of learning. That's why I love questions in the classroom, because it takes me to that little kid who wants to know why, who's curious, who's actually interested in the material. So it's not a bad thing. Somehow we got the reputation that asking a question, raising your hand and asking a question was a bad thing, primarily because people were afraid that it might be a stupid question. And maybe some professors have even fostered environments like that where they gave the vibe that it was a dumb question. And so you shouldn't bother asking any question. I'm quite the opposite, as you know. Hopefully you know that. I love questions. As a matter of fact, when there's a question given, that response usually answers several other students' questions. So a lot saved, a lot of time saved with just one question. I want to talk about a couple people throughout these lectures. And before we introduce these people, I want to talk about behaviorism. If you remember, behaviorism was one of the big six. If you remember, the behaviorism started with some heavy hitters, folks like John Watson, who I've nicknamed the bad boy of psychology, and B.F. Skinner, right? Behaviorism started around the 1920s, if you recall, with Mr. Watson, who, again, this is from chapter 1, when we're talking about the history, with Mr. Watson, who worked with little Albert, and we'll get back to him in just a minute or so. And he did some atrocious things in his experiment, very inappropriate things. And even though he was the former president of the American Psychological Association and the father of behaviorism, was eventually booted out of psychology for his inappropriate, unethical behavior towards his human subject. Boris Frederick Skinner, of course, was an American psychologist who went on to talk about operant conditioning, and we'll get back to him shortly too. Before we delve into that whole world, we should delve into this man. This man. Do you know who this man is? It's not Freud. It's not Gandhi. It is Ivan Pavlov. A little background history of Mr. Pavlov, originally from Russia. He was who I call, my nickname for him is Mr. Scientist. This man was a dedicated scientist who was working on the role of salivation in digestion. Here we see he goes on to win the Nobel Prize in 1904 for the role of salivation in digestion, working with dogs. Okay, so that's all interesting, but what does that have to do with psychology? Here's a physiologist who goes on to win the Nobel Prize, but what does that have to do with psychology? Well, I'm glad you asked, even if you didn't. He stumbles upon something weird during his experiment. So weird that he could not let it go. Now, despite my advanced age, I wasn't there. But I'll tell you, I can just picture him trying to figure it out. Why is this weird stuff happening? He was the kind of guy that when something weird happened, he couldn't let it go. He had to actually figure out what was causing this weird phenomenon. So, our next video, we're going to talk about what that was weird that happened with Pavlov. Stay tuned. Catch our next video, or you'll miss out the solution.